Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today, Friday, April 21st. In this video, what I'll be doing today, going through a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they turned out, talking a little bit about the weather spots for today. Then we head over to FanDuel, talk about the core picks that I do have for today. And then after that, get over to the bottom half of the cheat sheet where I go over the top teams to stack for GPPs for today as well. But without further ado, we're going to get into a recap of yesterday. 5-game slate yesterday, a little bit hit or miss results here. Obviously, pitcher was the big difference maker just in general. But the pitching altogether was not too great. Rosani Contreras for the Pirates was the best pitcher. I believe he had 51 points. Ryan Feltner actually ended up being up there, who is a guy that we liked stacking against yesterday. Unfortunately, he pitched pretty well. And then Matt Strahm with 11 strikeouts got up there as well. But otherwise, not too many pitchers worth talking about yesterday. We did go with Michael Wacha at $8,700. Did like the matchup against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Unfortunately, it did not pan out in our favor. He got 4 innings, gave up 10 hits and 5 runs, so only got 6 points. So he obviously was a miss yesterday. At first base, we went with Carlos Santana, who had some pretty decent history in the past against Luke Weaver. $2,900, got to 3 points, so to give him a push yesterday. Not anybody that helped us, but not anybody that killed us at the same time. At third base, we went with Key Brian Hayes, who had been on quite the hot streak. $2,900, got to 6.2 points, so he was a push yesterday as well. And then at shortstop, we had Francisco Lindor, $4,200, got to 15.4 points, so he was a hit yesterday. Ended up being the third overall shortstop on yesterday's slate. And then last but not least, we had Nick Castellanos, who, limited history against Ryan Feltner in the past, but only ended up with 3 points. So at $3,200, did give him a miss yesterday. Not the greatest day overall yesterday. Obviously, pitching plays a big part, especially with just one pitcher on the FanDuel side. So without Michael Wacha doing pretty good, obviously was not the greatest day in the world, but definitely a day yesterday that I said, on the smaller 5-game slate where there wasn't a lot of history and stuff like that, be sure to mix and match. So if you did that, you still had some chance of success. Otherwise, just a little bit rougher day in general. But with that being said, going over to some of the games for today in terms of weather spots. So the main ones that we'll be watching today is the Minnesota Twins and the Washington Nationals game. This game is in Minnesota. There's some snow expected in the forecast, some cold. There is a chance of postponement in this game where they may not play today. So if that game does go off, Tyler Mahle is a pretty interesting pitcher play. You could get to some of the Minnesota bats, but a little bit risky at this point in time. And then the other game that we're kind of watching at this point in time is the Cleveland Guardians against the Miami Marlins. Game is in Cleveland, expected to be some rain, potential postponement there as well. So if they end up playing this game, there's some bats that could be in play in this game just in general, but otherwise, not too much that I'm chasing at this point in time. Pretty much punting the Miami and Cleveland game at this point in time. The Minnesota game, obviously, we will have to keep a closer eye out on. But if anything does change throughout the day in terms of those two games or any other games, I will list it down in the comments below. So definitely be sure to look out for that as well. But that's pretty much what we do have in terms of other spots, which has been pretty good so far to start the season. But without it being further said, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. We'll get moved over to FanDuel. We'll talk about the core picks for today. So let me get FanDuel pulled up here real quickly as we're moving along. If you guys do have any specific questions for MLB DFS for today, be sure to leave them in the live chat. If you're listening live, if you're watching on replay, feel free to leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible as well. Then today is actually quite the opposite direction of yesterday, where we do have a lot of good pitching options. Went with John Gray myself personally at $8,800. Going against the Oakland A's, very good matchup here. He's got good history versus the A's in the past. Pitched against them twice last year. One start, he had an 18 points, and the other start was 58 points. Obviously, earlier in the year, the Oakland A's lineup was a little bit better than it was by the time at the end of the year and at this point in time as well. So do expect pretty good results for John Gray. It's been a little bit hit or miss to start the season. If we go into his game logs here real quick, let's just pull them up for you guys to see just a little bit more. But obviously a 3.21 ERA. It's been pretty decent so far. He's got the one win, but he has 38, 29, and 9 points at this point in time. Obviously, the most recent start was not the greatest in the world, but as long as he's out there, if he's pitching well, he does have that high end upside, especially going against the Oakland A's today. If you want to mix and match and play some other different pitchers, I like Freddie Peralta against the Boston Red Sox and Shohei Ohtani against the Kansas City Royals. Obviously, Ohtani being quite a bit pricier than all the other pitchers on this slate, but just definitely worth that price tag at this point in time. He had 73 points against the Royals last year when he pitched against them. But, going against the A's, a little bit cheaper spot with John Gray at this point in time. Definitely do like taking that today, but probably will mix and match all three of those pitchers. Maybe Tyler Mahle, if he ends up pitching, there is some upside to be had with guys like Bryce Elder, Hunter Brown, who don't have history against the teams they're facing, but, going against some pretty good lineups of that as well. So a lot of different options out there. Zach Gallen, who's pitching pretty well as of late, but he's going against the Padres, who he's not had the greatest success against. Could be another guy that is in play as well. Then we move down to first base, going with CJ Cron here. He's coming off a pretty good game, where they played pretty well against the Phillies yesterday. He is 4 for 6 in his career versus Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola's kind of struggling to start the year, which is not something that's unprecedented for him. He's had slower starts to years in the past as well. So CJ Cron, pretty decent start to start the year once again, which he typically does. He's coming off that big game, guy that has a little bit of not as much of a floor as some of the other guys that we like, but does offer the high end upside at that. And he's only $3,000. Typically, you like playing him a little bit better against left-handed pitching, but with a good history against Aaron Nola, don't mind it today at that cheaper price tag as well. Then we move down to second base with Gleyber Torres. He's $3,200, averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game on the season at this point in time. He is 8 for 18 with 1 home run versus Yusei Kikuchi, who is pitching for the Toronto Blue Jays today. Obviously, Gleyber Torres, looking into the stats a little bit more, 250 on the season, 2 home runs to 7 RBIs. But, guy that is maybe a little bit more hit or miss as well. These probably not the best cash game lineup if you're trying to go with that today, but definitely a lot of upside in terms of GPP with John Gray, with Gleyber Torres, with CJ Cron. Definitely a lineup that could win you guys some pretty big money at this point in time, if everything kind of fires off on all cylinders. And then we move down to shortstop, where we have Francisco Lindor once again averaging just under 14 fantasy points per game on the season, $4,200. He's going against Anthony DeSclafani today. He's got really good history versus him in the past, 8 for 15 with 3 home runs, which is the most home runs versus any hitter pitcher matchup of the day, just in general. If you guys are interested in more of those hitter versus pitcher matchups, besides the ones that are in my cheat sheet, besides the ones that are in my core picks that I'm talking about here, also up on Patreon, where I leave my MLB DFS notes Monday through Friday, as well as kind of my top stacks for the ones that don't make the cheat sheet as well. Obviously, the cheat sheet is free. It's up on Facebook, it's up on YouTube, it's up on Twitter, it's up on the Patreon too if you're paying on that side as well, which is a very small monthly donation, but definitely a lot of good information that is out there at this point in time. Also break down the pitchers as well, whether I would play them, avoid them, whether a little bit riskier play, just in general, kind of their history in the past versus the team that they are facing within the last year or so. But in terms of Francisco Lindor, definitely do love the upside that he does have against DeSclafani. DeSclafani's actually pitched really well so far this season, so kind of give and take there. Do you want to go on the past history? Do you want to go on the recent history? But definitely do like the upside that Francisco Lindor does offer for us today. If we want to look at some of those recent game logs for him too, I'll pull that up real quickly. He's a guy that's a little bit more hit or miss too with that 233 average, but does offer that high end upside at the same time. And he's got that 3-game hitting streak. He's actually got a hit in more games than not this season. Just not a lot of multi-hit games at this point in time. Hopefully that changes once again today. Then last but not least, we're going to move to the outfield with Christian Yelich. He is $3,100. He's going against the Boston Red Sox. It's Nick Pivetta on the mound today. Not the greatest start to the year for him, for a guy that did pitch pretty well last season. He is 4 for 11 with 2 home runs versus Pivetta in his career. So I do like the upside that Christian Yelich does offer, typically leading off for the Brewers once again. So do like that factor just in general. Gives you more opportunities to get RBIs, runs, everything else like that. Maybe not RBIs as much the first time around, since you got to hit a home run to have an RBI in that situation. But as the lineup moves around, Brewers have that pretty decent lineup as well. And then just like his upside that he does offer, if we want to look at some of his recent games for Christian Yelich, what he's done so far on the season, let me pull that up. He's averaging just under 12 fantasy points per game, which is not bad for $3,100 at this point in time. 3-hit game 2 games ago. A little bit of offers in there as of recently, but a little bit lower ceiling, or a little bit lower floor, but a high ceiling at the same time once again. So this is looking like a pretty good GPP lineup as we talk about for cores. If you're playing for cash game, maybe just build it a little bit differently. Obviously, you can check out the cheat sheet, some of the guys that do really stand out to me at this point in time, but mainly for MLB, primarily playing GPP myself. If you want to talk about some of the top teams to stack, I'm going to get off of this and go over there. But if you go with the 5 players that I do have at this point in time, you have $12,700 remaining, just under $3,200 per player. So it gives you some room, some flexibility to pay up for a player if that's something you want to do. If you wanted to pay up for Shohei Ohtani over John Gray, that's something you could do as well, and kind of pay down at other spots. But definitely a lot of different ways that we can approach the slate, with it being a 12-game main slate overall. But with that being said, we're going to get off of the FanDuel side. We'll move over to the bottom half of my cheat sheet, which I do have up over on YouTube that I am pulling up now. We'll talk about some of these top teams to stack. Like I said before, this cheat sheet is up on Twitter, it's up on Facebook, it's up on YouTube, it's up on Patreon, and the cheat sheet itself is 100% free. If you are interested in more in-depth MLB DFS notes, be sure to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. Monday through Friday, I'm posting up notes there for each MLB DFS main slate for the FanDuel side. But with that being said, the top GPP teams to stack for today, I have the Texas Rangers. They're going against JP Sears of the Oakland A's. Some of these guys have pretty good history versus him, although it is pretty limited at this point in time. Sears is a lefty, so you're going to want to target some of these right-handed bats for the Texas Rangers team just in general. Then we have the Colorado Rockies going against Aaron Nola. This one's a little bit hit or miss, but the Rockies have hit him pretty well in the past, whether it's a guy like CJ Cron, Charlie Blackmon. Another guy that I found really interesting just in general was Ryan McMahon at $2,700. You can play him at second base. You can play him at third base. You know, it hasn't been too bad as of late. Left-handed bat against a right-handed pitcher could have some pretty decent upside there as well at a cheaper price tag than normal. The Philadelphia Phillies are another team that I do like. They're going against Noah Davis. There really is no history here for them against Noah Davis. He's only made a couple starts in the majors. The only guy that does have history versus him in the past is Trey Turner. He's 1-for-1 versus him, so did throw him in the cheat sheet. And then the Angels going against the Royals bullpen game, essentially. They are going to start off with, God, who is it? Taylor Clark is going to be the opener. Ryan Yarbrough is expected to kind of be the long multi-inning reliever, and then we'll see what happens from there. So it could be some very good advantages for this Angels team just in general. And then last but not least, the Seattle Mariners going against Steven Matz of the Cardinals. Like some of these right-handed bats against Steven Matz, some of these other guys do have decent history versus him as well. So if you're looking at like a Ty France, a Julio Rodriguez, a Eugenio Suarez, there are some Mariners bats that we can chase today once again, and that could definitely pay off in a big, big way. But with that being said, that's really what I have in terms of MLB DFS core picks for this video, for this live stream. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note down in the comments your favorite play for today. Definitely interested in hearing who that is. Definitely a large 12-game slate, a lot of different options that could be available out there. But with that being said, if you are checking this video out for the first time, definitely would appreciate it if you did take the time out of your day to subscribe. Definitely would mean a lot to me. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Primarily MLB DFS at this point in time. We got some XFL DFS. We got some USFL DFS going on as well. XFL video went up yesterday, so definitely be sure to check that one out. USFL DFS will be going up later this afternoon. Those are both on the DraftKings side. And then if you guys are interested in any NFL draft stuff, got some NFL draft prospect interviews that are up on the channel. Definitely feel free to check those out as well. And then we'll be doing a little bit of NFL draft coverage, post-draft, kind of grading out the drafts and everything else like that. But if that's something you're interested in, definitely be sure to check that out. If you are a brand new subscriber or yet to do so, also be sure to hit that notification bell down below. It's going to let you know every single time I post up a new video, whether it is a live stream like this or a pre-recorded video. Then definitely be sure that you are subscribed so you never miss out on any of this good content just in general. But with that being said, definitely do appreciate everyone that did take the time out of their day to tune in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me, and I hope that each and every one of you has a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck at MLB DFS tonight.